Hello with the mayonnaise. What's going on today, boys? If you're returning, welcome back. If you're new here, sit back, relax, grab some snacks, because we are about to chat. Today, I want to talk about something that most people struggle with, including me, being the bigger man. It's one of those things that sounds great in theory, but when you're in the moment, when somebody's testing you, disrespecting you, or just making your life harder, it's a heck of a lot easier said than done. Now let's be real. Being the bigger man doesn't mean being a doormat. It doesn't mean letting people walk all over you or pretending like nothing bothers you. It means knowing when to rise above a situation instead of getting dragged into unnecessary conflict. It's about having the self-control and wisdom to handle things with maturity, even when everything in you wants to react emotionally. In personal relationships, whether it's family, friends, or even a significant other, there are going to be times when you feel disrespected or unappreciated. Maybe somebody twists your words. Maybe they throw a cheap shot. Or possibly they refuse to admit that they're wrong. And in these scenarios, you only have two choices. You can fire back and escalate the situation, or you can take a step back and handle it with maturity. But here's where all of this gets tricky. How do you know when to walk away and when to address the issue? A lot of people think that avoiding conflict is the same thing as being the bigger man, but that's not always true. Sometimes avoiding conflict just means bottling things up, and when you bottle things up, that leads to resentment. Other times, addressing an issue head on is the more mature thing to do, as long as you do it the right way. Now, how do we know when to walk away? There are situations where engaging in a conflict just isn't worth it, like when the other person is clearly arguing out of emotion instead of reason. If someone is being irrational and they're twisting your words or just looking to get a reaction, sometimes the best thing that you can do is just to let it go. For example, let's say that you're in an argument with a friend and they start bringing up things from the past that have absolutely nothing to do with the current issue. That's not a conversation. It's just a fight. And if the goal isn't resolution, but rather proving a point or winning, walking away keeps you from getting dragged into something pointless. Being the bigger man here means recognizing that not everything needs a response. It's about keeping your peace instead of letting somebody else's negativity control your emotions. So that being said, how do we know when to address these issues? So of course, on the other hand, there are times when you should speak up, when avoiding conflict would only let the problem grow. If something really bothers you, and you know that it's going to sit with you, it's better to have a mature conversation about it rather than letting it fester. The key here is how you approach it. Instead of reacting emotionally, take a step back and ask yourself this question: what is my goal here? If your goal is to fix the relationship and clear the air, then your approach has to reflect that. Instead of saying something like, "You always do this to me," or "You never listen to me," try something like, "I felt disrespected when this thing happened, and I want to talk to you about it." See, that small shift in language makes a huge difference because it turns the entire conversation from what was a fight into an actual discussion that leads to resolution. Now, both of those things said, the key here is actually finding the balance between these two items. At the end of the day, being the bigger man in a personal relationship means knowing the difference between letting things go for the sake of peace and speaking up for the sake of resolution. It's not about avoiding conflict altogether. It's about handling it in a way that actually leads to growth rather than just more drama. The best way to figure out the right move, ask yourself these three questions. 1. Is this just my pride talking, or does this actually matter? Number 2. Will bringing this up help the situation, or will it just add fuel to the fire? And number 3. Is the other person in a place where they're even willing to hear me out? If the answer to any of these questions is no, it's probably not worth engaging at the moment. But if the answer is yes, being the bigger man means handling it with maturity, not avoiding it, but addressing it in a way that leads to a solution, not just more conflict. Now, we can apply these same ideas to your work life. If you've ever had a boss take credit for your work, maybe a coworker tries to throw you under the bus, or you've been just stuck dealing with difficult people, you know how hard it is to be the bigger man. It's tempting to call people out and to make sure that everybody knows the truth, that you were the one who did all this work. But here's the thing. Your reputation isn't built on one moment. It's built on how you consistently handle yourself. If you've been in situations where you knew you were right, where you knew someone else was lying or manipulating things, the key is, instead of trying to prove a point, focus on the quality of your work and let the results speak for themselves. Over time, people will recognize integrity. They see who stays professional and who thrives on drama. Now, it's the same too with social media. In today's world, it's easier than ever to get caught up in arguments, especially online. Whether it's politics, social issues, or just petty drama, people are quick to attack, assume the worst, and throw insults at you. But honestly, engaging in that kind of back and forth rarely ever changes anything. Being the bigger man is knowing when to walk away. It means choosing not to waste your time and energy on pointless arguments. It doesn't mean that you don't stand up for what you believe in, but instead, it does mean that you pick your battles wisely. Not every fight is worth your time, and not every person deserves your response. At the end of the day, being the bigger man is about self-respect. It's about knowing who you are, what you stand for, and not letting other people dictate your actions. It's not easy. It takes patience, discipline, and a level of emotional control that most people don't have. But when you become the bigger man, you rise above the nonsense, and you realize how much power there is in not letting things get to you. So next time you're in a situation where you feel disrespected or frustrated, take a breath and ask yourself, is this worth my energy? Or is this one of those times where being the bigger man is the real victory? If you like this discussion, you might want to check out my last video where I talked about apathy, how it holds people back, and what you can do to overcome it. Apathy and emotional control go hand in hand. So if you're working on being the bigger man, that video will definitely give you some better insight. Also, I've got a playlist of other commentaries on my channel where I tackle different challenges we all face, from whether or not you should go to college to treating yourself with respect. If you're enjoying these talks, be sure to check that out. Now I give it to you. What do you guys think? Drop a comment with your experiences, and if you've ever had to be the bigger man in a tough situation. If you've enjoyed this video, I'd appreciate a like, and maybe you can subscribe if you want more. And feel free to send me an email with any of your questions to bigjohn.submissions@yahoo.com. And you can always drop your questions in the comments below, and I'll get back to you guys and maybe make a video on some topics that you want me to dive deeper into. With that being said, I'll catch you guys in the next one.